There are a few people, I think, have phoned people in SARS to inquire about the Commission. I understand one person had sent out a press statement. It's got nothing to do with the Commission. We've spoken to him and told him in no uncertain terms that he may not do that. If you receive any communications, they'll be either under my hand or under the Secretary's hand, and if you receive anything that is not under our hand, well, then it is not authorized. Do with it as you wish, but it doesn't come from the Commission. This Commission we regard as quite an urgent one, and I think the President does as well. He's given a very limited time for us to report to him, and there are important issues. It is said that the collection of revenues has fallen short by 50 billion rand, and some people say, well, that's the economy that has done that. Other people say that's because SARS is not working efficiently. May I just say that this is really informal, and we'll talk later. Thanks. But if it is the latter, well, these are urgent things. I mean, 50 billion rand is a lot of money for the state. It needs its money to put its programs in place. So there is an urgency in this, and there is a very long list of issues that are before us. So this Commission probably won't run in the way you might be accustomed to. I don't think that we can get anywhere if we were to say we're going to extract all the information that we need through public hearings. Quite frankly, it'll take us years if we were to do that. A lot of the information here is going to have to come from calling for documents and scrutinizing those documents, seeing what the result is, and perhaps having public hearings there. So don't expect a months of public hearings. There will be public hearings from time to time as we think it is appropriate to do so. There's another constraint, obviously, on this Commission, and that is that a fair amount of the information might be taxpayer information. And you will understand that under the legislation that is confidential, it may be disclosed to a Commission of Inquiry, but I think that the approach that we will take is that, by and large, we will respect that confidentiality with which people have submitted their information. It will be for us to analyze it and see what it tells us, and to report to the President. What he does with it is got nothing to do with us. But I think that people must feel confident that, by and large, and the starting point will be that their information is confidential and will remain confidential. Nonetheless, I mean, I welcome the press reporting on this. I mean, people all over the country have an equal interest in what is happening in SARS, and I hope that you'll be able to inform them. That's your job. We will do our job. You will do yours. I hope I won't interfere with you, and I hope you won't interfere with me. And my attitude to a Commission is that one wants to not issue directives and compel people to do anything. Hopefully it can all be done by cooperation. I think one gets a lot further with that. Having said that, a lot of the evidence, some of the evidence will be in public hearings. Some is going to be in the form of affidavits, where we simply call for affidavits, examine them and see if they're acceptable. Some is going to be in the form of just documentary evidence. So far as it is not confidential, if you haven't heard it in public, my intention is that the full record will be available to the press. Certainly there'll be a hard copy of it. I'll hear from you as to whether there are other ways in which it can be disseminated, but the full record will be there, whether it is affidavits, whether it is documents, whether it is the transcript of these proceedings. Having said that, is there anything that I can assist you with for you to do your work? Nothing? Can I go and have a cup of tea? Yes.
Good afternoon, Lord Barry Bateman, Eyewitness News. Do you have any idea of timelines? We've set down this week until Friday. This is just one session. How many more do you know at this stage? How many more future sessions? And do you have an indication of which witnesses you'll be calling?
Well, as far as witnesses for this session is concerned, incidentally, let me just tell you that the Secretary of the Commission is is Ms. Mkhwebane, who's been seconded by the Department of Justice. She will give you whatever information you need. If you haven't got her telephone number and so forth, please ask her for it. As far as witnesses are concerned, Ms. Steinberg and Mr. Seo are counsel for the Commission. They will determine that, but Ms. Steinberg, I think, has already given a list of the witnesses that will be called in this session. So if you'd like to ask the Secretary for that, you'll get that. As far as other hearings are concerned, it's difficult to predict at this stage. We've done a fair amount of work interviewing people, etc., calling for documents. A mountain of documents have been produced. We'll have to now go through all of that and see what it tells us. I think you should expect, though, July there'll probably be no hearings. In August, though, I suspect you'll have longer hearings than we have here. As far as timeline is concerned, you might be aware that the President has said he wants an interim report by the end of September, and he wants a final report by the end of November. We're going to do the very best we can to meet those deadlines, because we think it's urgent enough. Whether we will or not at the end of the day, one can't predict, but certainly that is our intention, that it should be done by then. So I think you should expect public hearings and longer ones, a few weeks at a time, in August and perhaps in September as well. Hopefully by end of September one will have enough to report sufficiently and to start preparing a final report. Does that assist you? And I'm a bit older. Can't hear you.
Yeah. I just wanted to find out in what order are you going through the terms of reference? It's quite lengthy.
Yeah.
Are you going to be following the letter, or are you going to be, how are you ordering the...
If you say starting from top to bottom, no, we won't be doing that. You'll see that in the terms of reference, although they sort of come together at the end as impacting upon one another, in fact, a lot of them are they're very discrete questions. And I think we're going to get an order of priority that we'll use in dealing with these discrete questions. Some of them are broader, but I think the discrete questions will need to be looked at first and then bring it together. At the end of the day, there are some matters here that are of historical interest, but historical interest in the sense that they tell us where SARS is today. There are others that are broader, and I think the broad thrust of it is about governance in SARS, and that's, I think, going to be the main thrust of the report: is SARS being governed properly, and if not, what must be done about it? There might well be, and I expect that there will be, interim reports to the President on some of these issues so that he knows what's happening in SARS and can take corrective action if necessary. But I can't predict at this stage in which order one was going to do those. That's, for the time being, for this hearing, what we're really looking at is we want to know what was supposed to be happening in SARS at one stage, what happened to it in the 4 years that we're concerned with. And one of the terms of reference is that there's apparently been a large exodus of skilled people, and we're supposed to find out why. And a lot of this session is going to be taken up with why are people leaving SARS, what is going wrong, and I'll tell you from the interviews, short interviews we've had thus far, there are some very disconcerting things about people and the morale in SARS at the moment. So I think that's what we'll be concentrating on for the moment. Anything else? Thank you. We'll be starting at 2 o'clock with my colleagues present. You'll be aware, if you look at the proclamation, that this is in fact a one-person commission. 3 others have been appointed, according to the proclamation, to assist the commission. But the commission doesn't comprise 4 people. It comprises 1 person with the assistance of the other 3, just so that you understand the structure of the commission. Is that okay? Thank you. We'll see you at... You'll know, perhaps, that Minister Gordhan is coming this afternoon. He's somewhere else this morning and flying in at lunchtime or something, so I hope he'll get here by 2:30. But I better add to you the times that we're going to be sitting. For the next days, we're going to start at 9:30. We'll break for a quarter of an hour at 11 o'clock. We'll break for an hour at lunchtime, it's 1 o'clock. And we'll be aiming to finish at 4 o'clock. But if there are witnesses that take us beyond that, we're going to go beyond that. I think that we are short of time, and we must use as much time as we need for this. So Minister Gordhan will come today. I think that he was the architect of the system that existed in April of 2014, which is the starting point of our inquiry. And I think it's very important for us to just understand the structure that he was the architect of, although he was no longer the commissioner for some 2 years before that, but he was the architect of the whole thing. SARS is a very complex place, I've discovered. And I think we just need a bit more insight into how it was operating at that time, in order to then to make an assessment of what happened to it after there were major changes thereafter, and we need to understand those changes in the context of what there was at the beginning. Thank you very much. Sorry, may I just add one other thing? We obviously were not sure at the time we started this how many people would be interested today. I anticipate that this room will be sufficient for whoever comes, but if there is a problem,